Welcome to Theme Weavers, your weekly wisdom for weaving yoga themes into your classes to inspire your students. We're your hosts, Heidi
and Farron. Welcome to episode 11 of Theme Weavers. Today we're going to talk about Brahmacharya, the fourth Yama mentioned in the Yoga Sutras, which is found in Yoga Sutra 2.38. If you don't know what Brahmacharya is, or you want to learn more about how to weave it through your class, then listen up. In case this is your first episode you're listening to, please check out episode 2 of Theme Weavers podcast for details and background on the structure of how and why to weave themes through your yoga classes. If you choose to use today's teaching on Brahmacharya, celibacy, as your theme while using the gift of our Inspo Sheet, then please find a way to turn our voices into yours. Make this theme authentic to you specifically.
Love it. All right. So today we're going to learn about the fourth Yama, like Farron said, called Brahmacharya, which has many interpretations. But as I have learned through various sources, I find that it means celibacy or moderation of sensual pleasures.
So don't have sex.
I remember
if you're a yogi.
Well, I don't know that. Yeah, I don't think it's definitely saying like don't have sex if you're a yogi. But I could see why one would interpret that. And just so you know, my husband is in the kitchen right now choking after he just heard what I said. But anyway, I remember when I was in my 200-hour teacher training, my first one, learning about Brahmacharya, and I was sitting there with like my eyes bugging out of my head, super, super confused. Because like you just said, Farron, it was taught to us that Brahmacharya means sexual chastity or like just don't have it, right? Yeah. And I could not understand how this is all relevant to me, given that I was a married human that had children. I am human, yeah, right? Like it didn't make any.
You lose at being a yogi because you're not celibate.
Right?
That's how I felt. That's how I felt when I learned it.
Yeah, and I was like, wait, I didn't sign up for this. I'm really confused. I signed up for something totally different. I'm like, what are we learning right now? But so we sat around and we had a lot of conversations about how we could interpret this into like our actual lives, right? Versus like the lives of the texts. And one thing that I was left with was that sometimes we need to think below the surface to see how something makes sense in our own lives, right? We don't have to do something by the book just because the book says to do it. You have to make it work for you, don't you think?
Yes.
In reality, I really have come to believe that Brahmacharya's meaning is more expansive than just thinking about abstinence. It's about channeling and conserving your vital energy, your self-regulation, and your self-control. So this I can understand. Have you thought about it in that way also, Farron?
Yeah, that's kind of how we relearned it, I guess, in training, is they're like, originally it means celibacy, but actually it's about the right use of your energy.
Yeah, for sure. And that, I mean, as like a hyper person, makes a lot of sense to me. Like I can't just be like all over the place all the time. I have to figure out what I'm doing with myself, right? I have to manage my energy and how I relate to the world. So in reality, we do all have a limited supply of energy. We're not all the Energizer Bunny that just keeps going and going and going. So we need to spend it where it's needed and not spend it where it's not needed. And our energy is always changing and shifting. So what felt good at 20 might not feel so good at 30. And what felt amazing on Monday might not feel so good on Friday. And so then we can use this knowledge to regulate our energy and our poses and in our lives as we walk around the world and interact with people. In our modern world, Brahmacharya might seem challenging to grasp since we live in a society that glorifies excess. So if you think about it, our lives are bombarded with stimuli from constant connectivity to a culture that celebrates indulgence in every aspect, at least here in America, I have found. I can't speak for everywhere, but so practicing Brahmacharya isn't just about restraining physical desires. It's also about managing your energy, where you want to invest it, and how you choose to use it. So consider the problems, Farron, that we're faced with today. We're faced with burnout. We're faced with distractions. We're faced with a sense of disconnection. And these can be eased by practicing Brahmacharya. By consciously directing your energy, you cultivate focus, resilience, and a deeper connection with yourself and others. But the challenges are real. Our life creates all these obstacles to that. We have distractions at every turn. It makes it hard to stay centered. Finding balance within a world that encourages excess can feel like an uphill battle. In addition to that, society creates pressures on us that make us overlook the importance of conserving our energy. But here's the beauty of it. Embracing Brahmacharya can lead to profound positive changes in our everyday life. When you learn to manage your energy, you'll notice increased focus during tasks, improved relationships due to heightened presence, and a deeper sense of inner peace. Imagine approaching life not as a race to consume everything in sight, but as a deliberate, mindful journey. When you channel your energy consciously, you become more aligned with your goals, your interactions become more meaningful, and your overall well-being improves. So, knowing this, Farron, how do you think we can integrate Brahmacharya into our daily routines?
That's a good question because I think that I actually struggle with this one. Now that you're talking about it, I'm like, yeah, I want to do all the things and I'm a pretty high energy person. So I'm just like, I want to do that, but I want to do this, but I want to do this. And I'm constantly jumping from thing to thing. So I think that actually channeling and focusing my energy to something specific, like to accomplish one goal instead of like 10 goals at the same time, that I would be actually practicing Brahmacharya and maybe life would go better.
I was reading, I think I talked about this before on the podcast, but Yoga and the Pursuit of Happiness, they talk about the fact that like we're a very distracted, multitasking society, and
Yeah.
that like the more you can get accomplished at once, like the more successful you are because you're like killing all these birds with one stone essentially, but that you're actually never totally present in everything. And I know I've talked about this on the podcast, but it's just like Brahmacharya fits into that too, right? Like, because if you're spending all of your energy, like just blurting it out to all these different things to just accomplish more, you're not actually using your energy in a deliberate, considerate way.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. So let's think about it. Let's think about how we actually do this in our life. um, I think whether it's like the consumption of food, technology, and our work habits, just like we're talking about, of like trying to accomplish everything at once, we need to set boundaries. We have to take breaks and we have to practice some self care in ways that conserve and direct our vital energy.
No question. Does that mean on the holidays that if there's like an 8-course meal in front of you, that you're not practicing Brahmacharya if you eat all the food, all the things, and you get so bloated that you can't really button your pants anymore after?
We're recording this right before Thanksgiving, so I can see where your question is coming from. But you know what? It's about moderation, right? So maybe have one bite of everything, but not like a full plate.
So you can still enjoy all the things, but it's about thinking about what you're doing as you're doing it and being really considerate of the energy that you're putting in and expanding as you're enjoying all the things.
Expanding like your waist size after the meal. Sorry, that's the first thing I thought of. My bad.
No, it's like a legitimate thought. Like you're putting all of this stuff into you without any thought, and then you're getting like blah afterwards. So your
Yeah.
energy is lower. You're expanding your waistline, but you're also depleting the free will of what you're choosing to put into your body and what it does to you, right? Like, if you eat this sometimes happens to me. I don't know if this happens to you, like, especially at dinner time. If I eat a heavy dinner, I feel like I'm on drugs afterwards sometimes. Like, I'm so like heavy and like exhausted that I can feel my body working really hard to break down this food.
Called a food coma.
Yeah, I don't like that feeling. I feel like if you practice Brahmacharya, though, that wouldn't happen.
That wouldn't happen. Yeah, because you would be directing your energy into eating foods that give you the right amount of energy and don't deplete your energy by overdoing it.
Right? That's really important. So that's off of our mat, but like I'm not eating food on my mat.
So yeah, while we're practicing yoga, we can emphasize this by being present on our mat and observing our breath, finding balance in our postures, and noticing where our mind wanders. These practices help us carry Brahmacharya off the mat and into our lives. It's not about perfection, though. It's all about progress. So small steps in consciously managing your energy can yield significant changes. Start by identifying areas where you can bring in more balance and moderation. As you explore Brahmacharya, you'll experience a newfound clarity, a deeper connection with yourself, and a sense of empowerment in navigating the complexities of modern life. It's about living intentionally, harnessing your energy, and finding harmony within. So let's embark on this journey together, cultivating Brahmacharya both on and off the mats.
All right. I like it. So we talked a little bit about how it was originally about sexual abstinence because that drains your energy, or is it like, why do you think that that is what it was originally written as? Do you think it's more like thinking about like having multiple partners and not choosing to direct your energy for a sake of purity almost, and instead you're just like spilling seed all over the place? Like, why was this even here, do you think? And yes, I just said spilling seed. I don't know where that came from.
This is the best conversation we've had on this podcast. Okay, so I actually think, looking back at the actual word Brahmacharya, it's I forgot what exactly it translates to, but Brahma is the first part of it, and Brahma in Hinduism is the god of creation. And so it's about being more like Brahma and like your creative energy, but being more, I guess, like godlike and pure, in that you're, just like you said, you're not having sex with multiple partners or maybe even one partner at all. It's like literally just being as Brahma like as you can. So, I mean, that's where it like originated.
Well, it makes me think about creation too, you said, and creation, obviously creation of life. So maybe it's just for the purpose of creating more life in a pure and
Yeah.
like spiritual way or something.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, we can only hypothesize, right?
For
This was
sure. But
written back in the day, but
yes, a long time ago. But then what if like we think about creation? I'm just thinking off the cuff right now, but if we're thinking about creation of life and sex, obviously that's one translation. But what about like the creation of ideas and thinking about, I think where my mind is going is, if you're being greedy and are you just creating ideas to sell and make a ton of money without thinking about the way that you're treating people and society and the earth and the process? Like, if you're going to create something, it should be done with a godlike way, if you will, like a very kind,
yeah.
thoughtful. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I love that. That was a really good connection.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I feel like I'm one of your Farron's gone, she's back in school and she's taking philosophy classes. And so now I feel like we're in, one of your philosophy classes all of a
Right?
sudden.
It's philosophy mixed with linguistics because we're breaking down the word Brahmacharya. So
This is basically all about who you are as a human then. Farron is obsessed with both of those things. I was thinking about, you went to a workshop recently, I believe on Ayurveda, and you went on this huge fall cleanse, fall reset. And that made
yeah.
me think of this too. What did
Yeah,
you
that
do?
was more about conserving your energy. So I guess there are seasons when you use your energy, and then there's seasons when you conserve your energy and then use that time to reflect on actually on Brahmacharya, like how you're going to use your energy when that time comes to fulfill your goals or to just be the person that you're meant to be, like authentically, instead of like trying to fulfill these external goals. You really take that time to conserve your energy, reflect, and then think about what is actually going to make me and me happy and me content, instead of other people being happy and content and people pleasing, stuff like that. So yeah, so I did that fall cleanse. It was 3 days. I took baths every day. I took a nap every day, which I never do. And I really just sat there and like read and journaled and had a lot of time to reflect. I went on walks with my dog, completely took myself off of social media. I didn't work. I didn't do anything that I normally do. And then I was able to really figure it out. Like, what am I doing on social media? What is my purpose there? What is my purpose at work? And now that I'm investing my energy again, I know exactly what I should be doing. Does that make sense?
That's amazing. It makes total sense. I remember talking to you about ahead of time. You're like, oh my God, what am I going to do without going on Instagram or going on Marco Polo to talk to you? Like, how am I going to interact? Like, what's going to happen? And then after the 3 days, we had a whole long conversation about, once you took these things out, being able to have a very clear head on what you choose to put back in with intention, what fills you up. So it's been like, what, a week and a half since then?
Yeah.
So have you, and I mean, I know a lot's going on in your personal life right now, but have you been able to keep up with choosing thoughtfully what you're putting into your body, both in terms of food and in terms of spending your time and how you invest in yourself? Or did you quickly start to slip back into old habits?
I think I'm doing a pretty good job. I'm very intentional with my time on social media now. I did get back on, but I'm not scrolling as much. And it's really tempting because I'm in the hospital a lot with my son. His cancer came back. So he has been admitted into the hospital for the last week. And being there, I mean, there's so much time to just pretty much do nothing. He's laying in the bed all day long. And so it's really easy for me to pick up my phone and start scrolling, but I don't. I post things that I feel are necessary and helpful, and then I get off. And then same thing with work. It's like I'm cutting out all the like little insignificant things that before like I thought were important, but they're really not. And I'm focusing more on like big picture, getting stuff done. Those are the two examples that come to mind. But
Of course, you did this and then had this like dramatic, impactful thing that you thought was not going to be happening happen to your son. And now you're in that challenge. Like, I know when I've been in situations in the hospital with my son, like everything that I'm trying to do for myself goes to the wayside. And so you got like challenged by the universe. Like, you made this decision. Now we're going to challenge you with the biggest possible thing ever for you to go through. Make it really easy for you to slide back into wrong use of energy, right? The things you decided you don't want to do. And we're going to challenge you with that and see if you can still do it. And you're doing it. And that's giant and amazing.
thanks. Yeah, it feels really good. I'm spending like actual quality time with my son while he's there in the hospital. We like played video games together, which may not seem like, oh, that's quality time, but when you're in the hospital, you can't really do much. And we're having a blast just playing together and talking.
It's easy probably for you to just do your own thing, like both of you be on your own devices, not interacting at all, going into
Right.
like a woe is me mindset. But instead, you're trying to use your energy to create connection between the two of you, even if it's over a video game. That doesn't matter. He's a little kid in the hospital with cancer. Like, you're
Yeah.
trying to make the most of it and the best of it as you possibly can in order to connect with each other in that process. And
Yeah.
that's pretty amazing.
Brahmacharya off the mat in the hospital.
Sounds like you're totally practicing it. Totally. And I'm sorry for everything you and your family are going through right now, because we love
Thank
you.
you for all of your help and support with all of that as well.
You're welcome. And I'll just put a plug in case you're listening and are so inclined. We do have a GoFundMe going for Farron and her family. And just send us an email if you're interested in the link, because I think community is everything. And to me, that is right use of energy, how we can help people when they're not in their highest space, how we can use their energy to help lift them up too. So, myself, my family, my whole community stands with you as best that we can from the other side of the country,
Thank you.
because we love you.
I love
Anyway,
you.
let's get back to Brahmacharya, even though that is kind of still part of it, right?
Yeah.
We have this really great Dharma talk here, and then we talked about its applications into our lives. But how do you think that we could bring this in to a physical movement class with a thematic through line, this phrase that we use throughout class? I came up with some. Let me know if you have anything different, Farron. You know me, I love questions. I love to use the thematic through line as a space of asking questions. So asking the students, how can you conserve your energy with each breath and movement? I'd say that especially in postures that are really fiery and challenging. And you're like, I guess the example I could give is, when you're in like a really deep chair pose and you look down and your toes are like completely scrunched up and squishing into the mat with all your might, and your jaw is clenched and your brow is furrowed, and like you're engaging all these extra parts of your body that you don't have to be. So bringing your attention to conserving your energy. Yes, you can still be totally in this challenging posture, but what can you try and soften so that way there's more of you to give throughout the challenge? I think that relates to another phrase you could use, like explore moderation in the pose. It's not about pushing to the extreme or to the edge, but finding your edge mindfully. Direct your energy purposefully, or remember the practice isn't about how far or deep you can go, but how aware you are of your energy within each movement. I don't know. Do you think of anything else?
Yeah, I also like to ask questions sometimes, maybe not as much as you, but for this one, especially, I do use this question. I say, where is your energy focused in this moment? So if I'm teaching a specific action throughout the class, then we'll focus on that action. And so when I ask them, where's your energy focused? It should be probably on that action. And so if it's focused somewhere else in the posture and different parts of the body, then they'll realize that and hopefully soften there.
I love that. And it brings them back to the moment that they're in, right? If they're not even thinking about the pose or their energy at all, just by asking that question, we're right back in it.
Yep. You can get those through line phrases and more at our Inspo Sheet. It's found at themeweaversyoga.com/episode 11. We list all of those out for you, plus some inspirational quotes that remind us of the practice of Brahmacharya, a few songs that bring the theme to life, as well as a mantra, a mudra, a pranayama, and some other postures, plus a meditation that you can weave into your class. We have received feedback that people love when we talk about a peak pose related to our themes, though. So I want to make it a point to bring that up. Heidi, what would be your peak pose for this?
I think I would use something like half moon, because when my students are in half moon, oftentimes their like toes are going insane with gripping into the mat. Their whole face is like angry looking because they're so intent on getting into this space. For some people, just lifting the back foot off of the ground and keeping it flexed and engaged by lifting the leg through the outer hip muscles of the top leg, your abductor muscle group, by keeping the bottom foot from sickling in. Like, there's so many things that you can be doing to try and find balance here. And you have to be able to pay attention to the way that you're using your, well, when you're in this posture, you have to pay attention to how you're using your energy. Otherwise, you completely lose the pose, or you're not breathing and you're just not actually in the posture and the experience. So I think that's a good posture for Brahmacharya. Do you think so?
Yeah, no, that's great. And I was also thinking that a lot of times when I get people into half moon, their focus tends to be to like pick up their bottom hand off of their mat so that they're literally balancing just on one foot. And I always have us start with their fingertips on the mat or on a block, something for support. And I focus on the action of the hip and opening the hips and like lengthening the legs. And so I'm like, don't worry about your hand and what it's doing. And if you can balance completely, like keep your hand on the block, it's fine.
It's still balance, right? One foot and one hand on the same side is still balance. If the
Yeah.
other side of the body's off the ground.
Yeah. But then it's like they feel like a failure if they can't pick up their hand off the ground. And I'm like, that's not where your energy needs to go in the pose, though. So it's perfect.
So to direct the focus, and maybe even doing it earlier on in the class with the bottom knee on the ground instead of just the foot. So it's almost like a modified side plank with the half moon shape of the back leg lifted, because when they're trying to get into this posture, if they're like struggling and struggling and struggling and getting angry and their energy is not really being directed in a way that's supportive for them, reminding them they can come back to that earlier like preparatory way of accessing the posture. And maybe that's the right use of their energy for today, not in only struggling and only grasping and clinging. It's in releasing some of that, so that way they can be in a version that works for them to be able to use their energy in a way that's supportive.
Yeah, that's perfect. Love it.
Cool. Good. So then when we're done with the class and we want to wrap up the class with our pretty bow, I would say something like, as we come to the end of our practice, take a moment to acknowledge the energy you've cultivated within. The essence of Brahmacharya, the art of consciously managing your energy, doesn't end here. As you roll up your mat and step back into your day, invite Brahmacharya to be a compass guiding you in your daily life. Whether it's in the pace you choose to move through things, the choices you make throughout your day, or in the interactions that you have with those around you, remember the power of moderation and mindful energy. In the midst of the chaos of our lives, strive to find moments of stillness. Embrace the pauses, savor the simplicity, and be present in each experience. Notice where your energy flows and where it's needed most. be intentional in your actions, and let your energy be a force for positivity and connection. Remember, this practice is yours to carry, a gentle reminder that within each breath, each movement, and each choice lies the opportunity to harness and direct your energy consciously. Thank you for sharing our practice together.
Love it. So you would say that like at the end of Shavasana, or even getting people into Shavasana, maybe.
I tend to usually do my wrap up when they're coming out of Shavasana, either laying flat on their back with their knees bent or curled up in the fetal position. Usually that's the place where I'm like, all right, you finished your movement. We're getting ready to begin again with our day. So now what we've been practicing, you can walk with you. But before you do that, let's think once more about how we can take this practice with us. And then we sit up and do our little closing.
Cool. Love that. It made me think of a quote, but I don't even know if it's a real quote. Something that says, where your intention goes, energy flows.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that.
Okay, yeah. Might have to add that to the Inspo Sheet.
I think we'll have to. Don't forget.
Yeah. Okay. So go to our website, themeweaversyoga.com/episode 11 to find that Inspo Sheet, probably with that updated quote on there, for Brahmacharya to help you bring this theme alive in your own voice, in your own practice and teaching. Then reach out to us on Facebook, Instagram, or email us to let us know how it lands with your students. We're here to support you, fellow yoga teacher, in your class preparation and delivery, so let us know how we can be of the most support.
Tune in next week for another episode of Theme Weavers, where we will help you feel prepared to go on and inspire your students in your next class. And remember, if you're unsure on the structure of how to weave your theme throughout the class, please feel free to go back and listen to episode 2, Why Weave? The Importance of Threading Intention into Your Yoga, for background and inspiration. Until next time,
we weave you in peace.